Would you say, Michael, just kind of given the point in history that we're at right now, where everybody is in a state of lockdown and all of that, that there's a state of lockdown in consciousness that's also happening? People right now are seeking refuge. They're seeking help, and they're looking for that paternal father figure, I'm sure, or totemic father, just even in an archetypal way. So what would you say about everything we've just presented? And I mean, you've obviously just presented a great sketch as to how to properly maybe look at these things and understand it. But then what does this person do that's just sitting in their home thinking about these things, trying to find some meaning? How do they avoid dropping back into nihilism and pessimism and feeling depressed? And how do they also guard their minds against slipping back into a place that was a little more primitive? Maybe before this whole pandemic hit and everybody started panicking, they were on this path of seeking knowledge. But now, because of this, the fear of it and the big questions are going to start to hit people, especially as they've been sitting for a couple of weeks now. How do we stop from sliding back to a previous stage from where we were at in our development?
Well, again, we have the internet where people can, listen to podcasts like this and learn and read the books that I recommend. But don't forget that wherever you're ill, wherever it hurts, or wherever there is the capacity to be, overwhelmed, right, or flooded, because as I say, government excels at this, and they're always doing new experiments. It's always a button they want to push. They can't get out of that, wanting to put the coin in and see us all running amok. But for every one of these sort of maladies, there is a solution to it. So when a person is feeling distraught, overwhelmed, suicidal, confused, for every one of those conditions, there's the remedy, right? So, and the remedy is within. So when you feel fear, or you feel, cornered or whatever, all of these things are happening because as part of this contrarium, you're meant to somehow reach inside yourself and discover, that level of heroism. So you've lost your job. Are you really concerned about that? Or are you worried about what the fucking wife is thinking about it? Who's really worried, and what are you worried about? Right? So immediately you've got an issue now where the will of other people, this is a moment now where you're going to see, right, whether the will of other people is what matters in your life, or whether your own constitutional sovereignty it rules your life. Right? Whether, let's just use the phrase without critiquing it, positive thinking, because I've always believed that you should think positively, because the only opposite is to think negatively, and who the hell would want to do that? So positive thinking, I'm not against. But what why I have a difference with the law of attraction, because people will be picking up a lot of those books right now, to sort of, when you were talking, I felt that, because I even have friends who I know will do that. And, looking to galvanize their will and seek some hope. Hey, whatever, great. But the nuance of why that system is false, the law of attraction and positive thinking, is because I'm a believer in positive action, not positive thinking. Right? So although there's obviously a bleed over, right? I mean, but you can talk all you want about positive thinking and nothing fucking gets done. Right? And that's what they want. That's what the people who espouse this are, do you realize that there's been a correlation? I don't know if you know this, that since man has been addicted to the internet and doesn't use tools anymore, that there's a correlation with his complete demasculinization, even sexually.
Interesting.
They found out, they found out that in the farming days, when even women used tools to milk the cows, to do the chickens or whatever, women were even much more users of tools. So they bred more boys. Right? It's empirical, right? As our societies have become less and less tool-oriented, more and more girls, because there's more and more estrogen in the female body. Right? That's exactly what I mean. We are in a situation now where so many things that were natural to us, to give us heroism, both in women and men, to masculinize both men and women, we don't even really have that, unless you are still a person who works in the countryside, who fixes cars a lot, who's working with their hands all the time, even a musician to that degree, right? You're working with little tools, or a jeweler. It's not completely gone. But in the vast majority of flabby America and flabby world, it is because you're simply probably not even using a fucking knife and fork. I don't know where your TV dinners or what it is, right? But there's a correlation there. And that it tells you a lot about our culture, because that phenomenon I've just explained, right, is part of the whole feminization. And so the law of prosperity and the law of attraction, which is based in positive thinking, has this one flaw. We're going to be, going into it again in different programs in great detail, because I always want to substantiate everything we're talking about here. But the very idea is, if you're a believer in positive action, that's what you have to dredge down. And that's what you have to awaken. Positive thinking, yeah, you can take it or leave it. It'll help. But it's worthless without positive action. And that means getting up and going out. That means getting up and going out. So what have they done? They've locked us down. Right? So now you still have to get up and do what you can, even within that 6-foot prison cell. So get into your martial arts, get into your stretches, do it even in the confines of the garden, in the back garden, and read, and still read, and pick, even work with some tools, build or mend something, get the Meccano out, get the Lego out, whatever you feel like doing, potter about in the garage, just fucking great. Fix that bike, fix that motorcycle, start hammering things, get back grounded. Don't look at this as negative. Look at this as Zen. Look at this as a Zen challenge. What's that book called? The Art of Motorcycle Mechanics or whatever. Yeah, get back into making something. The actor Peter Cushing, who I love dearly, right, was a man who every time he acted in a particular role, it was a lot of horror films and stuff, but he did other things as well. He'd go home and he'd actually make a model of the sets that he had worked on. That was one of his hobbies. Cool. He'd take photographs, right, and he'd go home and he'd make little mini Count Draculas and little coffins, and he had an incredible eye for detail. Where's that all gone? Why are people not making, Bach flower remedies? Why are people not, making herbs and tea, like Yaki was talking about, and fermenting beer if you want to, or making wine? Where's all the hobbies gone? You see? So, the emasculation of our times. And so I have a lot of different suggestions, for what people could do in situations like this, but they boil down to just simply picking up some tools in the garage, getting a few mates together and building a boat, or whatever you want to do, a playpen for the kids, dig a swimming pool, just get out there with a spade, and get out there with tools and weapons and whatever you want to do, and practice, and get back into the psychosomatic stuff, because these attacks that are happening right now are, again, to prevent that. The whole cult of positive thinking is to get you to be positively thinking, because they know it leads nowhere. You can positively think from morning till night. A lot of people are doing it. This is $1 billion business. Has it changed anything? No. Right? Positivity is being thrown into an area where it has no real essential meaning, except in a superficial way, which is why a lot of superficial idiots with their lattes in their fucking hands are positively thinking about that parking space. Right? It totally pertains to the most airheaded mall rats you've ever fucking encountered. Positive action is masculine. I'm going to write that book. Right? Get my typewriter out, or get the pages out. And pace up and down. And get it together. Learn the mechanics of it. I'm going to make that table, or I'm going to shave the doors down and repaint them. There's so much to be done in that very wholesome, practical way. It's like an edict of mind that anytime you're in doubt, think in the most practical, pragmatic terms about the thing. It's like sort of in the zodiac would be like the second house, kind of thing for those who are into astrology, right? But it's not really just the second house. It's the 10th house and the 6th, right? It's Virgo, Taurus, and Capricorn. For people in the tarot, it's the earth, it's the discs, and maybe even the wands, right? Not the air signs, not the water. I mean, literally say, does this, should I paint these walls? Yep. You should. Should I fix that roof? Yeah, you should. The toilet's leaking. Yeah, well, forget the plumber. Dig it up. Take that television. People used to do this. They used to work on CB radios. They take televisions apart and put them back together again. And of course, you just work with your own body. Start structure. Anything to do with structure. And this is as a non-expert, this is just the overwhelming point that I like to make about things. Is just do the housekeeping, do the housework. You preoccupy yourself with that, but then take it up to the next level. If you want to even paint a canvas, you always want to get a set of paints or calligraphy pens or whatever. Working with your hands, working with tools and tactile, things like that. Working out with your body, really attending to the most practical, because the body is practical, right? It's the most grounded thing you have. And so work out and take care of your environment. There's lots and lots of things to do that will countermand this. And that's your way out, because that's positive action. And that is the law that these nitwits, and flunkies should have been teaching in these books. Not positive thinking. That's infantile.
Well said. I couldn't agree more. And for those of you who are looking for some ideas, I'm putting together a series of just the stuff I'm doing. I'm teaching some of these little martial art concepts and home workout stuff that you can do just using household tools and having some fun with it. And I'm going to be doing a video coming up soon, doing breathing exercises and stretching, something low impact. And then I have other stuff that's more like workouts, and then just taking tools around the house and converting it into a form of weapon training, which is really just like you're saying, Michael, the tactile, just the movement, the manipulation of tools and things like that. And it's under the premise of, if you can move your body, you can move your mind if your mind is getting stuck right now. So I agree wholeheartedly. And you can also, like you said, Michael, you can find your own expressions, and this is the time to do it and maybe access parts of yourself that you didn't even know existed. Oh, you're muted there, Michael.
Another thing that people do, is think too grandiosely. I'm talking about just get out and dig a hole in the garden. Don't over intellectualize where this is going to lead. See, when I say practical, I mean doing it in a Zen way, where you're just doing it for the sake of it. You don't have a plan. Make a collage, right? Cut out things from a newspaper, right? And magazines. Anything that you can think of, but don't have a large, grandiose, involved, process involved in it. There's something just about the pure physicality of writing, with a pen, drawing cartoons, making a collage, right? Doing some pottery, doing some calligraphy, working with tools, as I say, and mending things. That's what people should be doing now, because what has happened is that because of the internet, there's so many ideas floating around. There's too much to digest mentally, and you'll be flooded. People are already flooded.
Right.
And now with this latest crisis, there's just all these ideas, what he or she is saying. I want to type back to them. I want to, and all of that's very good, but see, it can go overboard, and it can actually make you insane. I guess some people maybe, but at the very least, it's making you ungrounded and unfocused. And when you're flooded, it will debilitate you in other ways. But I'm just talking in general for the person who really wants to have a more, even in general, they want to have a spiritual life. You can't forget the usage of tools, which was ancestral, right? It's what built the world. And it's very needed for psychological grounding. The way they have those, you must know about it. The Japanese do that whole thing with the sand gardens, where you rake, right? You keep raking over the soil. You keep raking over the sand. Yeah, and they even have miniature ones where people things like that. Just go out to the beach, go out to, the back garden, and just do things like that. Those rituals will ground you. Like walking a labyrinth, right, is known to make people very peaceful, and it's very grounding. And do it over and over again, things like that. Make a big labyrinth in your garden and do it, So there's loads of things. The heroic person never lets the bastards grind you down, even if they've incarcerated you in a fucking 6x4 room, You just show them, look, mate, I'm the fucking Highlander here, all right? You're not going to keep me fucking cooped up,
Exactly.
right? I'll take this fucking place down brick by brick, right? Move the thing over 1 inch and build it again. How about that? That's Milarepa. Read that book. You know, it's like the Pink Floyd thing. You're on the edge of insanity. Yeah, well, fucking smash up everything and then put it all back together again meticulously, right? Hold to your sanity. Realize how precious it is. Awaken within you, as I said, because remember, the thing I'm also talking about will awaken some body intelligence. The body is aching for you to, you know, to build, make that snooker table, make that tennis, you know, table tennis table, get out there and do, and it's wanting you to do it. It's aching and aching and aching for you to get back to use your hands and your arms and sweat. Actually, you know, build up a sweat, building swings for the kids or a seesaw or whatever it might be, a swimming pool. You know what I mean? And the only other instruction is just, you know, don't do it with a, you know, you're not building the Empire State you're building here, you know, just do it for the sake of doing it. Do it with the love of a dog that just chases a stick. You know, try to come back to that. You know, try to come back like George Carlin. He said, I've never seen a kid recently, you know, with a stick in the back of the garden poking a hole in the grass like I used to do, right? Well, that's what I mean. And try to get it. For me, it's always music, you see, always puttering about with a guitar. You know, and to a small degree, that is working with a tool, you know, changing the strings or, you know, just modifying things and playing tunes. And then you have to move to the next step to record it, which is, you know, using devices and microphones and things like that, you know, or looking at instructional videotapes, you know, to learn completely different kinds of music than I even like, or what, you know, but it breaks the ear. It helps my main music because it breaks. You know, by going into something completely different. It's not that I'm ever going to be a master at any of that stuff, but in just doing it, I'm breaking the monotony. I'm creating a new synapse. You know what I mean? Or learn a new language. You know, and there's other people out there who are making videos right now. You said you're going to do one yourself. There's people out there who are, you know, specializing those, and I support that because that is not positive thinking. That is positive action.
Right.
Go out with if you even, you know, you're limited to a village or something. Yeah, go and pluck off a twig or a leaf of every tree that you can find in your neighborhood and come back and look up its meaning. So you can tell the difference between a beech tree and a birch tree, right? And an elder and all the rest of it. A buckthorn, an oak, and all of that. You know, that's using your tools, right? That's taking a knife, taking a camera, making a pressing and a book. You know, there's so many things you can do. And then, you know, opening a book, or if you've got one, or go on the internet and try to match up and learn. And it's breaking the trend of the normal, you know, monotheism that the government wants you to do that. And it has millions of ways of doing that, narrowing your focus in a pathological way that creates reality distortion.
Isn't it interesting that
I want you to do that.
Right. The funny thing is everybody's saying this term right now. It's going around, which is flatten the curve. We got to flatten the curve. And isn't that an interesting statement to make? Especially when we're like flattening consciousness.
What fucking curve? I'll give him a fucking curve. I'll give him a fucking curve like that. Flatten the fucking curve. Yeah, but look at the fucking nonsense in that. It's like Blake wanted you to have the curves. The road of imagination is crooked. We want the crooked road, you motherfuckers. But see, the government wants to steamroll everything. It wants to homogenize everything. Get everybody into lockstep. You know? I don't care what you got to do. Get a gigantic basin and some dye and dye all your fucking clothes, right? Boil it all up. This is the art. You know, sit home and do karaoke. You know, build something. It's not that hard, right? Build a gazebo in the back garden just for the sake of doing it, because that will lead to other places. But when you're positive thinking, your mind is out ahead of where your body is capable. And that's what these fruitcakes and the New Age movement want. They want your brain. They've taken a natural faculty, a virtue of people being able to see around corners and think ahead. Yeah, but there's a limit to that. Because in doing that, you miss the very steps of the road that you're walking now. So you're existentially not present. And that's another way they've been able to disable the will, because it's too extended, too stretched out. You know, so there's ways to bring it right back. And again, I always start, you know, by the most practical. So if you've got a little garden, hey, you don't have a shed, build one. you know? And then, like I said, Peter Cushing, not only build one, but build it gothically, build it with something special, you know, put extra, you know, something special into it. But again, it's not that it's hard to do any of this, but I believe that you need to do it because there's something that in the brain, there's something in the very nerves of our body, you see, wants to do that. You know, so getting out there with tools, getting out there into the natural world more, you know, looking through that telescope. My God, there's no end. See, I've never been bored a day in my life. And the only time I've ever been bored is when boring people are influencing my life. Or worse than bored people, psychopaths. But I've never been bored. There's not enough time in the day for me to do any of the shit I need to be doing and want to be doing. You know, and if you go to Robert Hare, his list of what psychopath, you know, you should actually just look at that outside even of the thing about psychopaths. And one of the things it says that you can tell a psychopath is they're fucking bored. They'll admit to themselves that they've had many, many years, you know, in their life, they've been bored continually. Just one of the 20 things that Hare says, you know, but at least it's one of the defining characteristics of a psychopath is that they're bored. Left to themselves, they have nothing to do. They need you so badly. They need the world so badly. Well, do you realize a government is the most psychopathic thing that ever existed? And their poison has already, you know, trickled down into the masses who don't know what aloneness is, who don't know what creativity is, don't know how to ground. You know, there's loads of stuff online about building desalination machines. You know, build one, because the seawater, if you're able to distill it, it's not that hard. You have all the fresh water you could ever need in a time of trouble. Yeah. And if you want, build a fucking crossbows. Build one for every member of the family. You know, why not? Why not? You know, all of these things in bold. That's what ancient man used to do. Right? That's what ancient man. That's where the word Fletcher comes from. If your name is Fletcher, like if you were called Hawkins, right? All of these words mean a function. Hawkins was the man who kept the hawks and the falcons for the king. Fletcher is the man who made arrows. Cooper is the man who made barrels. And on it goes. Turner, you know, in your own name is probably your destiny for all you would know, right? In my family, one of the names is to do with blacksmithing. Right? So as I say, it's encoded within. Have you worked on it? Have you brought? No, because everybody else, it's the wife who's scared of you losing your job. Well, fuck that. Right? Fuck that. Now is your time to observe it. Not get into arguments, but just observe how you're not running by your own legs. Something or other has been steering your destiny from day one. I am not in control of, you know, the chariot. The ruts are. So these are moments in which, you know, a person gets to see through another window, open up a new perspective on the meaning of their existence. And the changes in life, you see, the law of prosperity and all these things want us to be millionaires tomorrow. This is this Anthony Robbins idea. When in fact, the changes that matter are incremental. They're very slight, you know, in your personality and in your decisions. But they, you know, it's like a ship that's only moving half a degree, and then finally, you know, it makes this huge turn. That is what real change is all about. It's a gradual process by which you know, move vertically up. That's what the rites of passages are. Very rarely are they, you know, big flashes and big moments, you know, that everybody can take Polaroids of. Sometimes that happens, but mostly it's a very gradual change. Something's percolated, you know, something's ruminated. But I think that when you get these times of trouble, like, you know, tower struck with lightning type moments, right? It's the hangman's head is down in the earth. You can always foil an enemy, you see, by owning the ground that you stand upon. And we're out to work. The cubicle means more to us than the home. Who are these people? You know, everybody's allowed have to first to stay home now. Is like, who the fuck is this? And the kids are thinking, who the fuck? This is a loathsome fucking person telling me what to do. Back here every day of the week. At least you could fucking get away from you when you went to work. Now you're here telling me, you know, standing in the kitchen with your bagel. How do you cook it? this preposterous creature, that never spends time with their children and now hatefully has to do it and is making all the wrong moves because it's just so contrived and fake, trying to pretend to be, right. So observe it and start. Don't ever recoil from the mind of the beginner, from starting again, right from scratch, and everything that you can do. There's the art of going back to one. Down the serpent you'll go and start to one. It's actually one of the most healthiest things that you can do. And it's a classic Zen thing anyway. People should be really familiar with this. I'm not saying anything that people don't know. It's just reminding them, make some essential oils, mix some perfumes, just do, but don't do it because I want to sell it to Macy's. Do it because you're just going to do it to have fun. There's a certain organic need to recoil, shrink back into your own life and close the door and do something artistic and creative just for the sake of doing it, not because of what other people are going to think or what, how I'm going to sell it tomorrow or whatever. And tools play a big part of this, calligraphy pens, paint brushes, spades and hammers. Like I said, cutting knives, scissors. It's what Heidegger called the instrumentation of our lives. And there's something very deep and rich in coming to those things, and reacquainting ourselves with the so-called inanimate. What a word. So I would do it with that kind of vision as a Zen thing, as something that's helping you remain sane. Just like in these Chinese sand gardens that they make you do, and build a little labyrinth or a little game or something like that. Use your hands. Don't use your mind. You have to use that for certain stuff, but remember, it can become flooded, and the brain can be, completely flooded with the voices of the world.
Oh, that's
There's
great.
people who even do think, some of my friends did a thing called book binding. They actually take old books and they got a machine that actually binds books. I mean, I'm fascinated with stuff like that. Yeah. And there's other things that people can do. So that's what I basically recommend, sewing, cooking, just doing things that are creative or inventive is a very, very good thing because you're exercising positive action. And believe me, you'll soon find that all the things that they promise you will change when you do positive thinking. No. When you get into positive action, all the benefits that they claim are going to come. Who's this Rhonda Byrne and all that shit, right? All of that stuff that they claim, and this goes right back to Napoleon Hill and all of these people, right? The urbanized man is only interested in positive thinking. What he doesn't realize is that all those benefits and bounties are going to come to you, not through positive thinking necessarily, but by positive action. 10%, but 90% on the other side. And this is your perfect time to prove me wrong. This is your time to prove, that there is this miracle, there is this law. These times of, these little hot points where you get this, even if it was legitimate or non-legitimate, that's really irrelevant. This is, I think, the exercise, to ground yourself, really.